much that has changed. I mean, just start us off here, Ryan. I mean, what went wrong for Kevin Sumlin during his time in Arizona? I mean, what was his ultimate downfall?
As we've discussed in the past, to me, it was establishing an identity of the program. Like for someone to come in here that had a very good past, you need to get a reason for people to believe and buy into your program and what you're doing here. And it doesn't seem like he did that or made any progress in the years he was in Tucson. And since our first show months and months ago, I've said that Kevin Sumlin should be on the hot seat, and other people in media and around the world have came out and said that like they don't think so, that they should give him some more time. But I was always more critical just because I held him to that higher standard. When he was at Texas A&M, he was winning 10 games every year, 11 games, had like Johnny Manziel like all over national TV and in great bowl games. And so to me, that's what I obviously I didn't expect that type of level, but just below that because of what he did in the past. And he just couldn't do that. He couldn't recruit out of the state, and he couldn't get those next level recruits. He couldn't extend behind. I think he had 2 4-star recruits in 3 to 4 years, which is just unbelievable.
Just the recruiting as a whole was, there's a lot to talk about here, but I'll start with the recruiting. I mean, it was just a flop from the beginning. Like, I mean, you mentioned he couldn't recruit out of state. He couldn't recruit in state either. That entire staff, like Bijan Robinson and Lathan Ransom were walking distance from campus. Like, maybe that's a bit of an overstatement. That's a pretty solid walk, but South Point is like 5 minutes away from campus. Like, the fact that Arizona let 2 5-star recruits who literally played in their own backyard just leave the state and go somewhere else, like that's not good. It was literally so bad. Like Bijan even said that when he was going through the recruitment process, and he saw coaches from Texas and other schools from across the country more than he did the Arizona coaches at practice. Like, how does that happen? Like these other schools paid thousands of dollars to hop on a plane and pay for these hotels to travel across the country to go see Bijan Robinson play, and Arizona can't even, get in a car and drive 5 minutes to go see him. Like, that is so ridiculous. Like, sure, these guys are 5-star prospects. So, of course they're going to, jump on the opportunity to go play at Texas and Ohio State, if they had the opportunity. But the fact that it didn't even sound like Arizona even tried to get their name in there, like, that's what makes me the most upset. Like, it literally cost nothing to, about a few hours in your day to go to a practice just for a couple miles off of campus and just go watch them play. Like, I just don't get it. It was so bad. I still cannot believe that happened.
Yeah, and that just shows the lack of commitment and effort that was put in by Kevin Sumlin and the coaching staff overall. Like you said, because it all starts with one. If they could have landed 1 5-star recruit, then you keep building on that. That's how you build an overall program. But it's also, there's so many things that went wrong. It's hard to just put it, even I bring it back to last year where they had Khalil Tate and then they had Grant Gunnell and they would switch them in and out. To me, there's no way for a quarterback to succeed like that. That's not how winning works in football to me. Because if Khalil Tate was struggling, all right, you sit him. You start Grant Gunnell for a few games. And if he starts to struggle, then maybe you switch to Tate again. But to go like in and out, like this isn't high school. Even then I don't see that a lot. But, that's just it worries me a lot. And, yeah, I've been calling for his job a lot. This losing streak is just unbelievable. And it's crazy that he couldn't take the Wildcats to one bowl game in 3 seasons.
I just don't think Kevin Sumlin knew what he signed up for when he got here. Like we'll get into it later about, who we want to see as the next head coach and, what kind of requirements we want them to have to take on this job. Arizona it's a tough place to recruit for football. Like I just don't think he knew that when he got here. Like there's history within the football program, but it's not on the same level as an SEC school. Like unless you really understand the culture of Arizona and you really have a passion to promote it, it's a tough sell to these recruits. And I just don't think I don't think Kevin Sumlin really understood that. Like Arizona is essentially a basketball school. Like that's where the school's history mainly lies. Baseball and softball have been great too, but my point is that it's so much harder to recruit a kid to come to Arizona and play football than people actually think it is. I mean, like, think about it. All the same regions that Arizona recruiting is getting poached by all these big schools also, like Oregon, USC, UCLA, Washington. These dudes are all recruiting the same guys that Arizona is trying to recruit. So, like, someone's recruiting strategies that, previously worked at Texas A&M worked because it's Texas A&M. It's not Arizona. Like, those recruiting strategies don't work at a school like Arizona. I just don't think Kevin Sumlin knew that when he was in here. And I just think the expectations for what he could do here was, way higher than it should have been, which isn't, someone's fault. But I just think Kevin Sumlin and his characteristics and his coaching styles just wasn't a good fit for Tucson. It doesn't fit Arizona. It fits the SEC. It fits a bigger school, not Arizona, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. And like you said, like I don't know if he thought he was just going to walk in here and people off his past were just going to come. I mean, a few followed him. Greg Cannell followed him, Booby from Texas, and others. But yeah, it's not all. You need to prove yourself, and just his attitude in general, like off of press conferences I've heard him talk. His whole attitude, it didn't make sense. Like earlier in the season, the first game when they lost to USC right at the buzzer at the end of the game, he seemed like it was like the end of the world, and that was his most mad he was. And then from there, it just seemed like after Washington and Utah and the rest, he just seemed like all right, we got to do better and this and that. But it didn't seem like the message changed, and it also seemed like he lost the locker room at the end. It seemed like players came on and like, well, first of all, people midweek of game weeks started to opt out, which I've never heard of. But also players, players just seemed like the message wasn't getting through to all of them, obviously, and that led to a bunch of walk-ons playing at the end. And he just puts this whole program in a difficult position and situation, because now all these 3-star players they're even getting, they're not great 3-stars. Why would it, if any of those guys got offered by any of the other Pac-12 teams, they would go there and not Arizona. That's just the facts. Arizona's at the bottom of the totem pole right now, and it's going to take a long time to build back up to even have a good reputation to get better prospects.
And it all goes back to branding. I really think that was his downfall. I just don't think, I'm not going to say someone didn't care about Arizona, but he's not, it's so hard for me to really say this, but like, I just don't think he understood the culture of Arizona. Like, you see how passionate these, former players are and these alumni are. They want this program to win so badly. They want it to win more than Kevin Sumlin did, and that's a problem. Like, your head coach needs to be the number one dude in the locker room that wants to win most. And I just don't think, obviously he wants to win, but I think he wants to win for different reasons. I don't think, his mindset and his, priorities were with the program, if that makes any sense. It's hard for me to actually say that because, I don't know Kevin Sumlin on a personal level, so I can't, it's hard for me to say that, but it was just tough to see, and you could see the locker room kind of folding at the end. Like, it was just bad. I just don't think, the culture that he brought into Arizona really benefited Arizona. It was really tough to see.
Yeah, it was just a bad ending and from a rough start, and they could just never get on track, and that's the whole story of the Kevin Sumlin era. And yeah, I think this program it's like just, if we thought about it, why would a recruit want to come here in the next, say, 2 years after this pass? They haven't showed any progress of getting better as a program, as a team, or just moving up. There's bad teams, but there's bad teams that have a bright side or that look better and moving in the right direction. And yeah, that just doesn't seem like it's happening here.
Well, Kevin Sumlin is God, so that is, the easy